Hi friends, thank you so much for joining me here today. Welcome to Life's What You Cake It. Today I'm going to be showing you all how to make these cute little pumpkin spice cookies that I recently posted on social media. That first batch that I had done was actually a test. I'm so glad that it worked out because these I think might be my new favorite cookies. They're very similar to sugar cookies, but these are actually called butter cookies. There's a little bit of a different ratio of butter to sugar in these than in a sugar cookie. There also is no leavening agents added to it, so no baking powder or baking soda. And there is also the smallest addition of milk at the very end to make your dough a pipeable consistency. I used almond milk in this recipe, but you can use any type of plant-based milk that you like, or even regular milk if you're not making these vegan. Here are the ingredients that you're going to need for this recipe. As a baking best practice, before we start, we're going to tie our hair back. Perfect! We're all good to go, so let's get started. The first step is to cream our butter and sugar together. Now you're going to want to save a small portion of that sugar for the next step. But for now, we're just going to turn our mixer to a medium-low speed. You definitely don't need to use a stand mixer and can absolutely do this by hand. I was just having a little bit of a rough day and needed to relax my wrists, so that's why I opted for my stand mixer. And so once that is nicely creamed together, we are going to scrape down the paddle and the bowl. You want to do this after each step. So after you've added a new ingredient and mixed it in, you want to scrape everything down to make sure that anything stuck to the bottom or the paddle gets mixed in really nicely with the dough. Next, we're going to take that little leftover portion of sugar and whisk it in with our egg replacer. This is a great little secret to make sure that the egg replacer doesn't clump up when you add the water because it is starch-based. We're going to add our water while whisking, and you want to really mix this super duper well. And you're only going to add a little bit of water at a time and then whisk really thoroughly in between each little addition of water. There we go, last little bit, and you can see that there are no lumps of egg replacer in there. Great, we're gonna let that thicken for a minute while we add our vanilla extract to the butter and sugar. So there we go, just our 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're gonna mix that on a nice low speed. Then after you've scraped down the bowl, you're going to then have your mixer running while you add the egg in 2 or 3 little portions. And of course, you're going to want to scrape down that bowl and paddle after each addition of your egg replacer. The next step is to add our dry ingredients. I've sifted together the gluten-free flour, salt, and the pumpkin pie spice. We're adding all of that into our bowl at once and then mixing it on a low speed until it starts to look nice and combined, because we don't want that flour to puff back up into our faces. One of the best things about working with gluten-free flour is that you actually don't have to worry about over-mixing your dough because there's no gluten that will develop. So you can mix it as long as you want. So this is that little secret I was talking about. Instead of using almond milk this time, I decided to use a pumpkin spice plant-based coffee creamer, and this actually worked so well. I guess you could say this was a little test in itself. And it just really enhanced that pumpkin pie spice flavor, and I'm really glad that I tried it out because it was perfect, and that's something that you can do as well. So now that that's all nice and mixed together, you can see that we've got a pipeable consistency. It's not too thin, which is excellent. We're going to put aside 2 little portions of this dough, which we're going to be coloring green and brown for the stems and the vines on our pumpkins. And next you're going to add orange food coloring to that large portion of dough. I used gel food coloring today, and you want to make sure that you're not adding too much food coloring at once, because you can always add more, but you can't take any out once it's in there. So now we're just going to mix this on a nice low speed until the color is consistent throughout the dough. That looks perfect, and we are ready to start piping our pumpkins. So now we're going to take our baking sheet and line it with parchment paper. You're also going to need a piping bag. I am using a reusable silicone piping bag and a star tip. I'm using the Wilton 4B tip. You can use any star tip that you'd like. You can even use a disposable piping bag. You just want to make sure that it's strong enough to handle dough, and you also want to make sure that your piping tip isn't too small because that will make it way more difficult to pipe that dough out. So now we're also going to fill our bag, but you don't want to fill it all the way because putting too much dough in there could make it hard to pipe, so we're only going to fill it about halfway. And now it is time to pipe. I'm so sorry that my hands are so shaky here. And you also can't really see what I'm piping at the moment. But what you're going to want to do is start off with the outside edges of your pumpkin, and then you're going to pipe the rest in after. So you can see it a lot better here. So you're starting just with the general shape of the pumpkin, and then you're adding those nice little layers inside. You want to keep your cookies relatively the same size as well. You don't want to pipe some very small and very large on the same tray because that will affect the baking time. So here you go, just a little bit faster here for you to see how I pipe them on my tray. Next, we're taking our dough that we've colored brown, and I've got that in another piping bag with a slightly smaller star tip. Now, of course, these stems don't need to be perfect because pumpkins always have crooked stems, so that's okay. And now to finish them off, we're piping our little bit of dough that we colored green. I've got it in a parchment piping bag. You can always use a different type of piping bag if that is easier for you. But we're just piping on these squiggly little vines. I like to just let the dough take me where it wants to go. There's no point in fighting it. Vines are very unique, and they're definitely going to end up unique in this case, for sure. So now that our pumpkins are all ready to go, we're putting them in the freezer for about 20 minutes to harden up. You're going to preheat your oven to 335 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to bake them for 15 minutes. You can see this is what they look like when they came out of the oven. They did spread a little bit, but you can still see all of those nice piped details from that star tip. We're going to let them cool off, and then we're gonna pipe their faces on. I transferred them to this wire rack just to get them to cool a little bit faster so I could finish filming all of this. We're just using our dark chocolate in a small little parchment piping bag and putting on the little faces. You can make your pumpkins look however you want, you know, give them their own little personalities. It's fantastic. These are already looking so cute. Next, I'm taking my white chocolate, my vegan white chocolate. I've melted it down and put a little bit of pink food coloring in it, just to pipe on for their cute little cheeks. When microwaving your chocolate, if that's how you decide to heat it up, you really want to make sure that you're only heating it up in 30-second increments on a very low power or temperature, so that way your chocolate does not burn. Almost finished here. And this is our final result. Our cute little pumpkins. I can't get over how cute they are. And not only are they cute, but they are so delicious. I'm really excited for you all to try them. And there you have it, our perfect little pumpkin spice butter cookies. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave it a like. You can also subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this tutorial and want to see more from me in the future. If you do bake along to this tutorial and you post it on social media, you can always tag me or send me DMs even with photos or videos of your baking. My Instagram and TikTok will be in my description. Just a little side note, I am currently in the running to become the greatest baker. It is a competition that goes by popular vote, so I've put the link to my greatest baker profile in my description. If you want to click on that and vote for me, that would be so appreciated. Not necessary, but I would definitely appreciate it a lot. Thank you all again so much for joining me here today. I hope you have the most wonderful day and that you have a bunch of fun baking along to this tutorial. And we hope to see you here again really soon. Bye! Bye!